I want to tell you something about that crack in your sidewalk, the one you have patched twice and are about to patch a third time. And I warn you, once you hear it, you will go outside and stare at it differently. That crack is moving. Right now. Not fast, and never while you watch, but truly, the way the hour hand moves. If you laid a ruler across it this July afternoon and wrote down its width to the 16th of an inch, and came back on a freezing January morning and measured again, you would get two different numbers. Wider in the cold, tighter in the heat, opening and closing, year after year, like something breathing very slowly under your feet. That crack is not a broken place that happened once. It is a moving joint that your sidewalk built for itself, and it has been faithfully opening and closing since before you owned the place. And now you know why every patch you ever put in it came back out. You mixed a good patch, a hard patch, strong as the sidewalk itself, and you troweled it into a gap that opens and closes. Winter came, the slabs leaned apart, and something had to give, and it was the new patch, or its edges, because the one thing your repair could not do was the one thing the crack does for a living. It could not move. Today I will show you why the concrete moves, and always will, why the strong patch is the wrong patch, and the repair the pros use instead, one that does not fight the movement, but makes room for it, and for that exact reason, stays. Before the concrete, one line of business. 15 fixes, $1 or less apiece, gathered into a free paper under this video. Put your name in, and it is on its way. And that is the last you will hear of it. Folks think of a concrete slab as the one honest, permanent, motionless thing on the property. And a slab is honest, and it is near permanent, and it is never once motionless. 3 hands are on it at all times. The first hand is heat. Concrete, like near everything, swells when it warms and shrinks when it cools, and a sidewalk lies out in the open, taking the full day's sun and the full night's chill, every day, and the full swing of summer to winter, every year. The size of each move is small. The number of moves is thousands, and they never stop, and they never will while the sun comes up. The second hand is water and frost. The ground under the slab takes on water and swells, dries and settles, and in winter it freezes, and freezing water shoves upward with a force no patch ever poured can argue with. Every winter the ground lifts the slabs a little, each slab a little differently, and every spring it sets them back down, not quite where they were. And the third hand is the ground itself, settling year by year, one slab's soil sinking a hair faster than its neighbors. 3 hands, all patient, all permanent. And once concrete has found a crack, that crack becomes the place where all that motion goes. The slabs move as whole stones, and the crack between them is the hinge where the moving shows. So say the true name of the thing out loud. It is not damage sitting still. It is a joint, in motion, forever. And you cannot glue a hinge shut. The hinge does not care how strong the glue is. It only cares that the glue cannot swing. If that piece of it landed, tap the like on your way past, and subscribe if you would like one old skill a week. And here is the part hiding in plain sight your whole life. The men who poured your sidewalk knew every word I just said, and they confessed it, in writing, right into the surface, and you have walked over the confession 10,000 times. Those straight grooved lines across every sidewalk in America, the ones that divided into squares. You likely never asked what they are for. They are not decoration, and they are not seams between pores. They are called control joints, and hear what a control joint actually is. It is a line where the finisher deliberately made the slab thinner, scored a weak line into fresh concrete, on purpose, so that when the concrete moves, and he knew it would crack there, along his tidy line, instead of wandering wherever it pleased. The builders did not try to stop the cracking. They knew no one stops it. So they chose where it would happen and made it neat. Every sidewalk you have ever walked on is a row of planned cracks. That is the whole trade admitting, in cast stone, that concrete moves and must be allowed to. And your repair failed because it argued with that. It stood in the one spot where the entire industry had already surrendered, holding a bucket of rigid patch, saying, "Not here, it doesn't." So the fix is not a stronger patch. The fix is to do for your crack exactly what the builders did for theirs. Stop fighting the joint. Finish it properly, as a joint. Let me give the failure one clear minute, because I want you to be able to read the corpse of your last repair when you dig it out. You filled a moving gap with a rigid block. Come winter, the slabs eased apart, and your block had three choices only. Crack through its own middle, tear loose along one bonded edge, or hold on and make the slabs crack somewhere new beside it. That is the entire menu. Strong, weak, expensive, cheap, the brand does not matter, because the failure was never in the material's strength. It was in asking a stiff thing to live in a moving seam. Go look at your failed patch, and you will see it chose from that menu. A new crack right down its center, or a clean, dark gap along one side where it let go of the old concrete. It did not fail you. It was never able. And hear the quiet cost that makes this more than a matter of looks. An open crack drinks rainwater down under the slab, and that water is the very frost shove and soil slump that moves the slabs harder. An unsealed crack feeds the motion that made it. Sealing it right is not cosmetics. It is cutting off the crack's water supply. Here is the repair. 3 parts and an afternoon, and every part exists to let the seam move. First, the cleaning, and it is half the job. Everything loose comes out of that crack, and everything that was a failed patch comes out with it. Glasses on and gloves on, and with a cold chisel and hammer, worked gently, break out the old rigid patch and any crumbling edges, then a stiff wire brush down the walls of the crack, and then get the dust and grit out, shop vacuum or a good stiff sweeping. And keep this old-fashioned about it. Chisel and brush, not a grinder, for dry ground concrete throws a dust you do not want in your lungs, and the chisel makes chips, not clouds. What you want at the end is a gap with clean, sound, dry walls, because the flexible sealant is going to hold on to those walls for years, and nothing bonds to dust. A rushed cleaning is a repair with a countdown on it. Second, the rod. And this is the piece of the trade almost no homeowner has ever heard of, and it is the difference between this repair and every failed one before it. Backer rod. A rope of soft gray foam sold in the concrete aisle for a few dollars in thicknesses. You buy it a size fatter than your crack, and you press it down into the gap with a putty knife or a paint stick so it sits snug below the surface, about ½ an inch down or by the sealant maker's word. Now, why on earth put foam in a crack? 2 reasons, and they are the whole engineering of this video. Reason 1. Depth. The rod is a floor. It stops the sealant from pouring away deep into the crack and holds it as a band near the surface. And that matters because a flexible sealant stretches best as a thin band. Thin stretches. A deep, thick plug of the same sealant is stiff, the way a thick rubber mat is stiffer than a rubber band. The rod makes your expensive sealant into the shape that moves best and saves you half the tube while doing it. Reason 2, and this is the subtle one. The third side. Sealant poured into a bare crack grabs 3 surfaces: the left wall, the right wall, and the bottom. And a band stuck on 3 sides cannot stretch, because when the walls pull apart, the bottom holds the sealant's belly still, and the band tears through its own middle instead of stretching across. Held on 3 sides, it rips. The foam rod is a surface sealant will not grip. With the rod in place, the sealant bonds only to the 2 walls, left and right, and its belly rides free on the foam. And now, when the slabs pull apart, The whole band stretches, wall to wall, the way a rubber band stretches between two fingers. 2 sides, it lives. 3 sides, it dies. $4 of foam is what buys the difference. Third, the sealant itself. And the word to look for on the tube is flexible. Not patch, not mortar, not crack filler in a powder. A flexible crack sealant, the polyurethane or hybrid kind sold for exactly this. Self-leveling for flat walks or the gun grade for slopes. And the makers of these, the concrete companies themselves, sell them alongside that same backer rod because the two are one system. Cut the tip, run the bead along the rod, filling the gap to just below the surface, and tool it smooth with a putty knife or whatever touch the maker suggests. One clean pass. And then, patience. The honest kind. These cures want their time before feet, and more time before anything heavier. And the tube's own label gives the hours, and the label wins. A seam walked on early is a seam done twice. And what you have when it cures is not a hard scar pretending the crack never happened. It is a neat, slightly rubbery gray seam, exactly like the caulked joints you have seen in commercial floors and never once noticed. And here is what it does that no rigid patch ever did. Winter comes, the slabs lean apart, and the seam quietly stretches. Summer comes, they crowd back, and it quietly squeezes. Rain comes and finds the door shut. The crack goes on breathing, as it always will, and the repair breathes with it, and that is the entire secret. It stays because it moves. This repair has a jurisdiction, and I will draw its edges exactly, because a sealed crack is not always the right answer. Everything today is for the ordinary, settled, non-structural crack. The slab that cracked years ago moves with its seasons and stays otherwise put. That is most sidewalk cracks, and it is only most. If one slab's edge stands higher than its neighbor, even half an inch, that is not a sealing job. That is a settled or heaved slab, and a toe catcher that can put a person on the ground, and it wants a concrete contractor who can lift, grind, or replace. In a good many towns, the height of a public walk is also a matter the town has rules about, and sometimes programs for. If the crack is visibly growing, wider this year than last, new branches running off it, that is ground still on the move underneath, and sealing it is bandaging a thing that has not finished happening. A crack still writing its story wants a professional reader first. If tree roots are lifting the slab, the root wins every argument until it is dealt with, and root work near a mature tree is its own trade twice over. And a crack in a foundation is a different world from a crack in a walk, whatever the two look like side by side. Foundation cracks get looked at by people licensed to say the word structural. They do not get quietly sealed by us on a Saturday. And one honest word about looks. This repair is tidy, and it is visible. A gray, flexible seam where a crack was. It is the same seam the pros leave, and it is what right looks like on a moving joint. If a man promises you an invisible repair of a moving crack, he is selling you the opening scene of this video, the patch that matches perfectly until winter. One thing more, and then I will let you get to it. You spent years losing to that crack because you brought strength to it, and strength felt like the obviously right thing to bring to concrete. And the crack beat strength every winter without effort, because the crack was not strong at all. It was only moving. Then one afternoon you stopped arguing, cleaned the joint, laid a rope of foam, and gunned in a bead of something soft. And the soft thing is still there years later, while the strong things are all in pieces in the bin. There is an old piece of wisdom about the oak and the reed in the wind, and every generation finds out it was never really about trees. Against a force that will not stop coming, and the seasons will not stop coming, victory does not go to whatever is hardest. It goes to whatever has room in itself for the force to pass through. The builders knew it when they scored their tidy lines. The sealant knows it every January. And it is worth knowing about more things than sidewalks. Which battles are won by holding, and which are only ever won by yielding, on purpose, in a place of your own choosing. Now, something for the comments, and this one asks a little patience of you. How many times have you patched the same crack? Twice? 4 times? And go out tonight with a ruler, measure yours at its widest, and write the number somewhere you will find it in January. Then measure again in the cold, and come back and tell me both numbers. Because I would like this comment section to prove to every doubter that the ground under this whole country is breathing. I read every one. Until then, remember, the crack is not broken concrete. It is moving concrete. Clean it, floor it with the rod, seal it with something that can stretch, and let it breathe. It stays because it moves. God keep you, friend. We will talk again.